This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Motorway. This is what easy car sourcing from more than 8,000 fresh vehicles every week feels like. Join Motorway, the UK's largest source of private stock exclusively for dealers, where our transport, stock funding and insurance means you get seamless service and peace of mind when fueling your forecourt. Browse, bid and buy at the touch of a button. It's not magic, it's Motorway.
Welcome back to the Car Dealer Podcast Live, and welcome as well to our live studio audience. This is where you make some noise. We are delighted as ever to see you all here today for our second podcast live, sponsored by Motorway, of course. Motorway, make some noise as well, wherever you are.
Whoa. Whoa.
At what is possibly the second best hotel in the Didcot area. So I hope you're all enjoying it. I'm Jon Reay, and asking the probing questions today, we have, of course, James Baggott. James, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, John.
We're also blessed to have Quentin Wilson's stunt double here, James Batchelor.
I don't know what you mean.
Oh dear.
That was
Quentin Wilson. That was
really
it's
bad.
quite bad.
I'm doing Quentin Wilson. In the audience as well with a roving mic, somewhere we've got Becca Chaplin at the back. Is your mic on, Rebecca? Okay, well, Rebecca is at the back with a mic that hopefully will
I am
work.
in the back corner hiding, but I will be jumping out if anyone has any questions.
Very good. So yes, if you want to put any questions to the panel or us, pop your hand up and she will sprint over. Joining us today, we're not very important, but joining us today are three proper guests from across the motor industry. So in the franchise dealer corner, please welcome Vicky Hart, Head of Marketing and Digital at Waylands. Thank you for joining us, Vicky.
Thank you very much for having me.
That's a good welcome. Let's keep that going. So representing independent dealers, we've got Alex Bradley, founder of Small Cars Direct. Nice to see you, Alex. And from the manufacturer world, it's none other than Matt Galvin, Managing Director of Polestar UK and Ireland. Hello, Matt.
Hello.
So we're going to do things a bit differently this time. There's no particular stories or voting, so James can't hold that over my head, which is quite nice.
Shame.
So we're just going to have a good old chat, really, ask lots of questions, and then go eat some corn on the cob, etc.
Really?
Is there a meat option?
There is. Yes, there is meat. Our presenters will be having a chat to each of our guests as we go through about their areas of automotive expertise, but feel free to get involved along the way, as we keep saying. If you've got a point to make, stick your hand up, and yes, Rebecca will come over. So, James, let's just get this out of the way first.
Oh, God.
Are there any moans you want to have? You know, have you bought a Ford Mondeo full of eels?
No, but I have just lost out on a Suzuki Splash in the motorway auction, so that's
Right.
quite frustrating.
Okay. But
You know how much I love a Suzuki Splash, John.
Well, apparently so.
Yeah.
But seriously,
Yeah.
seriously,
Okay.
it says in my script,
Yep.
you've been running your tiny car dealership now for 2 years, haven't you?
Yep.
What have you learned? Actually, I'm going to ask first, knowing now what you do know, what would you have done differently?
Maybe not done it. No. What would I have done differently? I would have got help sooner, if I'm honest. I've got a couple of my colleagues in the audience today, and since they've joined, it has been a lot easier, because running a small dealership, like many people in the audience do, well, actually a lot bigger dealerships than I do, it's stressful. It's incredibly hard work. And when you're doing that just on your own and dealing with the pressures of buying cars and dealing with customers and warranty claims, I've had a huge amount of respect for those people who do run a dealership now, having done it myself. And I just like the fact that I can bounce off other people. The old saying, problem shared is problem halved. It really is true. And just being able to pick up the phone to someone and say, what should we do about that warranty claim, or what should we do about buying that car, really does help, because you can be isolated in this industry. So I think what I would have done sooner is expanded a bit quicker with some help.
Yes, Joe and Luke are here in the audience somewhere, aren't they?
Yeah. So thank you.
There
to
we
them
go.
both.
They've been forced to
Wait,
come.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Against their own will. They're not
Yeah.
watching any Vauxhalls this afternoon.
Well, these are the chairs from the dealership, so they've got nowhere to sit.
I
Are you
mean, Joe,
close to
Luke,
it?
if you want to ask about your next pay packet, this is a great time to do it. I mean,
Yes.
We'll cut there.
yeah. So I'm going to move on to Batch now because I'm bored of James. So what about you? You've been on plenty of car launches, I assume, this year. We haven't seen you on the podcast for a while. Where have you
It's
been?
been a relief, to be honest with you, but no, I have. I've been very, very busy. I feel like I'm talking about this all the time now, but the theme of this year really has been Chinese car launches. And only last week there was a totally new brand that was launched. I didn't even know what it was. It just appeared at a driving day for journalists, and on that precise day, the brand launched in the UK. And
This is Cherry, is it?
no, it was
No?
it's Chang'an.
Oh yes.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
L07. And we are now in this very strange world where these brands are appearing in the UK thick and fast. And I'm really getting an insight into what car buyers are feeling, because quite often, quite frequently, I haven't got a clue who these brands are, and I have to rapidly do some research. And you kind of realise what consumers go through, particularly those who are not particularly car savvy. They don't know much about brands. I think we all assume everybody knows about cars, don't they? But lots of people don't. So that's been a real theme for me this year. It's just getting to grips with all of these brands that seem to be appearing every single week.
Quick question on that. I mean, having driven lots of these different brands, which is the one that really stood out for you?
I think it's Cherry, actually, and Cherry have all. They launched last year with the Modra and Jaku, and now suddenly Cherry have decided, hey, we want a slice of the action as well. And it was quite interesting because I was on the launch of the Cherry Tiggo 7 the other week, and the executive was there standing in front of me, and I said, look, where does Cherry fit amongst the Modra and Jaku brands? Because as a journalist, I'm trying to work out where they sit, which customers are going to be buying them. And basically the executive said, it doesn't really matter. Why are you so interested in trying to have this hierarchy of brands? That's what we used to do in the past, and having this hierarchy of brands. And that's just not a thing at the moment. And they think that's not a thing moving forwards.
It's going to be strange, isn't it, how it's going to change the automotive landscape so quickly, I think.
Well, I mean, interesting as that was, Batch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
There are more interesting people up here than us, so I'm going to start asking some questions. So, Vicky, I'm sorry, we're coming to you first. But tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us your automotive journey. How did you get to where you are now?
My automotive journey, okay. So, as I sit here today, I've been in head of marketing roles in a number of AM 100 retail groups for 10 years. So prior to that was in a SaaS company providing software to the automotive retail industry. Before that, various marketing agencies outside of automotive. So within automotive industry for 13 years now.
Fantastic. So you find yourself at Waylands now, of course.
I do indeed.
Your boss is in the front row, as
Absolutely.
I predicted.
On strict instruction. Yeah.
So how has the year been for Waylands so far from where you're sitting?
I think it's fair to say a really, really strong year for us, and particularly in the used car space. If we look at year-on-year performance, and some of that's come through acquisition, but we've moved forward really quite credibly in terms of used car sales volume. New car has been perhaps more volatile this year, but actually we're very fortunate to have excellent brand partners, all of whom are doing really great things and bringing exciting product to market. So Waylands is feeling like a really good place to be.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, well, since you mentioned brands, some of which are joining us today, I mean, we talked about Chinese cars there, haven't we? You guys have got a couple of Chinese brands.
Yep.
I mean, how are you getting on with them? Are they a bit of a runaway success? Not to put words in your mouth. Except I have.
Not to lead the witness. So very, very new additions to Wayland. So we acquired an Automotive Jaku site in Bristol on the 9th of July, I think it was. So we are very new to working with the brand. I think one thing that's really impressed me is the energy behind the aggression, almost, in terms of that pursuit of market share. They're really willing to kind of stand by that, and are very supportive in terms of helping us drive that forwards, drive local awareness. Response to the product has been fantastic. But I think that the point that you made, Batch, was a really, really interesting one around this kind of hierarchy of brands and which customers buy which products. In the marketing space, of course, that's of real interest to me in terms of understanding how do we segment that audience and which of the brands in the portfolio are right for which customer. And I do think that one thing the Chinese new entrants are doing are they're really challenging brand loyalties in terms of consumer. I think what it also means is fundamentally price isn't a point of differentiation anymore. So in terms of that kind of hierarchy of brands, actually there's much more choice than there ever has been before. So the point around who buys these cars is a really interesting one. Some of the early profiling work I've done suggests we're actually seeing high levels of affluence amongst that customer base. People who are making decisions based on perhaps value rather than price. So I think the point you make there is a really pertinent one when you start to look at those new entrants, for sure.
When it comes to these consumers that are buying these new brands, I mean, Emoji JQ I find them particularly interesting. I see lots of them around. I went to China with them this year and I was amazed at what they've done there and what they're going to be bringing here, especially, I mean, it wasn't surprised when they launched Cherry. Do you have to market them differently? I mean, how are you targeting these buyers? Because like you say, it's very hard to profile who they are.
Absolutely that. And I think it's fair to say that given our relationship and representation of the brand is still in its infancy, one thing we're very mindful of in our targeting is at the moment we're starting quite broad. We're learning as we go. We are very much digital first in terms of our marketing. And what that does, I guess, afford us the benefit of is great data. So we're scrutinising really heavily everything that we do for those brands right now, and we're learning, we're adjusting, and we're just having to be more agile than ever. Because again, I think that's one thing within the quarter. I don't think I've ever seen so many overlays and enhancements to the campaign as the brand responds to the market. And I think we as a marketing function need to be equipped to go with them. So I think for me at the moment, the targeting's fairly broad. We're hypothesising, we're testing things, and we're making sure that we fail fast and learn and move on.
Sorry, Jon.
No, you go for
it. Just jumped in. But when it comes to these Chinese manufacturers, as Batch pointed out, there's loads of them coming to the market now. And we've talked about a lot on the podcast about when they take over, and whether they have already taken over. I mean, what's your take on these Chinese brands in total? Do you think they're going to be dominating the automotive market in the UK very soon?
No, I don't. I think that what they're doing is they're providing customers with more choice. But I think one thing we're seeing is that actually they tend to sit in a basket with a lot of the volume brands that we would know and expect to be on the shopping list. So I don't think we're at a point where we're going to see domination of those brands in a very short period of time. I think what they are doing is perhaps extending that buying decision, extending that purchase journey, because now more than ever, there is more choice. But I think absolutely there is still an opportunity for the mainstay brands that we continue to see. I don't see them dominating anytime soon, no.
I mean, they really have, particularly Mojo and Jacob. I mean, on the way up here, starting to sound like Alan Partridge now, but up on the A34, just as the M4 crosses over, I saw about genuinely 6 car transporters full of JQ7s. No Land Rover transporters, no Ford transporters. I know. But it seems like there is no shortage of stock. And what is it from a marketing perspective? I mean, is there a huge amount of support from those manufacturers to dealers to try and get these cars to appeal to new customers?
Absolutely. I think we recognise that in that brand, we have the disadvantage, if you like, of no established base. So from an after-sales point of view, clearly we have a challenge. But from a sales point of view, there's no renewal opportunity there. So in terms of marketing activity, we know it's costly. We are ultimately looking to conquest customers from other brands. So I would say that in terms of asset provision, in terms of financial support, the brand have been superb. To that extent, they absolutely put their money where their mouth is and are very supportive of the dealer network.
Just moving on to marketing a little bit, because we will do another Chinese car podcast inevitably. We'll sit here and talk about this, won't we? I'm sure we'll come back to more Chinese cars in today's subject matter. But just in terms of advertising channels for you guys, I mean, there'll be a lot of people in the audience and listening. who are constantly scrutinising where to put their money in terms of marketing activities and so on. What's the biggest channel for you guys? What's performing the best? You know, Auto Trader, other brands are available, etc., etc.
Yeah, so as I alluded to earlier, our strategy is digital first. So in terms of our marketing spend, digital as a whole probably represents circa 85% of our total spend. So it is significant in that sense. One thing, you know, we absolutely recognise the role of the classified platforms in terms of driving inquiry, but we are absolutely focused on driving our paid and organic presence. Waylands.co.uk is by far our highest converting inquiry source. So in terms of what I want to do, I want to drive more of that inquiry. I want to get people to Waylands.co.uk because that's where we'll drive a higher, or customers with a higher propensity to convert. So we've got customers that are lower funnel coming to us via our own website, which sort of figures, right? They're at that point, they're looking at, you know, actually what deal can I get? So they absolutely are looking for their local dealer, what stock we've got, if it's a used car inquiry, or what kind of tactical offers we've got for a new car inquiry. So for us, we've been trialling a lot of different things with Google in terms of our paid search presence. This year, organic has been a real focus for us. So for me, anything that enables us to drive high quality, lower funnel traffic to Waylands.co.uk is our focus.
I'm going to give you a difficult question, which is, where do you think dealers should focus their spend? Obviously, it's very dependent on what kind of dealer they are, the local area, etc. But let's say, where do you think James should focus his spend?
Yeah, can I have some tips, please?
Yeah.
I guess for me, there are several elements to that. There's one area that I think we don't talk about enough, but is incredibly important in terms of longevity, and that's building brand. So for me, we operate in a space where I referenced earlier, you know, price is no longer a point of differentiation. Product as a retailer isn't a point of differentiation insofar as somebody can buy a new Polestar from us, they can buy a new Polestar from another retail partner. So actually the Waylands brand needs to carry real weight. Why do I choose to buy that product from you? And actually that's about experience, that's about the trust signals. You know, we talk a lot about the importance of reviews, but that really plays out when you look at customer decision making. So for me, building brand equity should be a real area of focus for all retailers, because that can be the only point of differentiation. And actually that's where you start to gain long-term competitive advantage rather than just winning the month or the quarter. I think other than that, my focus really is on then looking at quality of inquiry, because quantity of inquiry can so easily become a vanity metric. And we talk often about, you know, traffic levels, inquiry levels, but for me, it absolutely has to be a layer deeper than that, and looking at your inquiry sources and where that conversion comes from. Hence our focus on our own kind of website property for quality of inquiry.
Do you find that you get customers coming into the showroom who just want to buy from Waylands because of who Waylands is? Because that's a very expensive thing to push, isn't it? Pushing your own brand rather than the one that's above the door, a Moda JQ, for example, it's hard to do, isn't it? Because I'm not sure whether customers connect the fact that these manufacturer dealerships are owned by individual dealer groups.
Oh no, absolutely. And I think for me, it's about driving awareness of the Waylands brand, clearly articulating our value proposition, but actually in synergy with the manufacturer brand. Because for us, a big part of our value proposition is that these great manufacturer partners choose to partner with us. We are, you know, excellent ambassadors of their brand as well. So I think for me, you're absolutely right. It's an expensive investment. But when you start to move into the after sales space, for example, if you move away just from the sales element, again, reputation becomes so important. I think the challenge is in terms of many of the marketing conversations that we have, it's much harder to quantify. And that can be when the challenges come, when you're sitting around the table and talking about allocation of budget. You have to find the compelling reasons to invest in brand, because it is an expensive exercise. I absolutely think that we see people who choose to buy from Waylands. And we know that because sometimes if people have decided that the product they're in isn't right for them to continue, they will speak to us about, is there anything else you can help me with? So I think absolutely people do choose to deal with us because we're Waylands.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's gold dust really, isn't it? I mean, if you've got people coming to you because they want to deal with you, it's worth the time and investment in that marketing. Interesting to see that's working.
I'm just going to move us on briefly to the electric car grant, which is a topical topic. I'm good at this. So I just want to talk about how it's how you guys have found it. How's it been on the ground? Because we've talked at length on the podcast about the confusion in implementation and what does it mean for people wandering into showrooms. Are there customers wandering in saying, can I have my £3,500 off, please? And you're having to say, I'm afraid not, because that's not a Ford Puma over there. Is that kind of thing happening? Are they aware of the grant and are they expecting lots of money off cars?
Yes, I think it's fair to say that there is a good level of awareness around the car grant, but I would say mixed with a healthy dose of scepticism. I think that the initial announcement, whilst considered a very great exercise from a PR point of view, came with a real lack of clarity, and actually all that served to do was drive confusion. So we had customers who'd heard about this car grant, but actually what does that mean? And if I am exploring my options, I mean, for us, the EV car grant doesn't apply to any of the models that we represent. One thing I think that our manufacturer partners have been really good at doing is coming to the table with their own proposition so that they are still competitive, albeit not necessarily through the EV car grant. So I think, yes, absolutely, those conversations are taking place in showrooms today. And for us, it's been as much about educating the customer as making sure that our colleagues are fully informed, because of course they walk in and they expect us to be product experts. They expect us to be able to help them with that. So the pressure has been on us as well to make sure that the team are on the journey and understand how to advise customers.
I mean, I've moaned about the plug-in car grant quite a lot.
I think it would affect you, James.
I know.
Go on about it.
No, but I have moaned about it quite a lot because I just feel there was a good idea there, but the execution was awful. And what they were trying to do is incentivise people into electric cars, and what they've done is ended up beating up manufacturers when they didn't really need to do it. What would you have liked to have seen as a grant? I mean, how would you have liked to have seen something implemented? Because you've just said there that you've got a lot of electric cars, but none of them are eligible for this government grant. What would you have done?
I think it's important to address customer concerns, and actually, whilst cost of ownership is a factor, there are lots of other customer concerns we see playing out as well. So whether or not that was support to be used for home charging installation, whether or not that was support actually to move people into plug-in hybrid, because we do see a lot of customers kind of dip their toe in the water with a plug-in hybrid, and then their next vehicle will be a fully electric vehicle. So I think supporting people on the journey and acknowledging that will look different for lots of different customer groups, rather than being quite as prescriptive as they have been, which actually the net result is actually there's almost a disengagement in terms of the value of that scheme. I think a bit more flexibility, in summary, would have been a really positive thing.
Now, Matt's going to hate me for asking this, but now the grant doesn't apply to you guys at Polestar because you're kind of priced above it anyway, aren't you, really? What do you think, looking from the outside at it? I mean, would you have liked to have been included in it? Do you think that the limit is too low, for example? I guess that's my first question. And then what do you
That's
do you
also
make
one
of
of my
it?
questions.
I'm terribly sorry, Matt. I'll hand over to you after this. I just wanted to claim the glory of that particular scoop.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, of course the limit's too low. I would say that, wouldn't I? And of course we'd love Polestar to be eligible, but it's a good idea. Absolutely. It was executed terribly, James. I agree with you. There was far too much confusion and kerfuffle for almost 2 months before it was really clear for consumers as to which cars it applied to and which cars it didn't. I mean, I've probably got a slightly different perspective as to how they could have approached it. For me, it's about giving more people choice in terms of their transition to an EV. And most of you in here are used car dealers. The used car market for EVs has been, it's fair to say, challenging, with residual values plummeting. First adoption of those cars and the ownership of those cars has been a really terrible experience. So, the Netherlands recently did something where they supported used cars. And actually, in terms of adoption of electric cars, which is, if we believe in electric cars being part of a sustainable future, really important, that lower price point that a used car provides might have been a more interesting way, as well as new car, but might have been a more interesting way to use some of that money. But also, of course, there's these ZEV mandate fines, big fines for people that don't comply with the ZEV mandate. That's not taxpayer money. they could reinvest that in some kind of incentive that does do new and used cars, or maybe it levels the VAT on charging, for example. Domestic to 20% is quite a big gap. So there's lots of different things they could have done, but I am an advocate of it. I think it's a good thing. We do need to get on this journey of EV adoption. It's not changing; it's coming for all of us. So any way we can smooth the transition is a good thing.
I mean, from a PR perspective, it was a disaster, wasn't it? I mean, to launch the scheme with 4 Citroens, each of which are average at best. Anyway, sorry. Citroen's calling me up.
It's happened before.
It has. No, but to launch it in that way, I mean, I know you're not covered by the grant, but from a manufacturer perspective, you must be thinking, why isn't the government actually having a serious dialogue with us?
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought the obvious thing to do would be to do the preparation and the homework first, right? And say, the grant's here, these are the cars it applies to from day one. That had far more traction, because what the industry saw was a stalling of consumers wanting to make that choice, because quite obviously they're going to wait to see what the full list of cars is before they make their decision on that purchase. So, it was definitely a big sort of dip, I'm sure, in showroom traffic, in consumers making that decision to make that purchase. So, yeah, it was a bit of a farce. Could have been done a lot better. We are where we are. So, yeah.
Matt, if you were in number 10, and you never know, there might be a vacancy soon, what would you do? What would you put in place to make this work?
I think it's a recipe of lots of different things, and it's 100 things done 1% better, not one thing done 100% better, So people don't know this, but the congestion charge is going to be levied at electric cars from December. Right, there's a disincentive straight away, and that's not just London, that's congestion charge zones in the UK. There's a disincentive not to buy an electric car. The expensive car supplement's still set at £40,000, not adjusted for inflation since 2017, which when you do adjust it for inflation is about £56,000. Why are we not doing that? Because again, a disincentive for buying an electric car is that most electric cars, excepting some of the Chinese entrants, are over £40,000. A Vauxhall Astra, Batch, I think you had one, EV.
I did.
Over £40,000. So I'd be looking at the smaller things which disincentivise customers to go for an EV, rather than saying, here's 6 cars and you have £3,000 off them.
Can I just ask Alex, we talked there about used EVs. You're a used car dealer. We were talking before we started recording about the success you're having with the 500e. What are used car buyers saying? And do you think there needs to be something in place for the used car market when it comes to EVs?
I think a lot of the people that are coming to us interested in our electric used cars are people that have already done a lot of their research online. So it's very rare that we're having the opportunity to actually educate these people, which is a shame, because I think it's quite an easy piece to kind of get over the message and the benefits of having a used EV. And whenever people come to you and they'll say, what cars have you got? It's typically, what cars have you got? Small automatic under 2,000 don't exist. But if you're looking at say 5-10 grand budget, you're looking at around and you think, actually, I've got a couple automatic EVs. You can't really even start the conversation with these people because I wouldn't have an EV. So you can't really get going, which is really frustrating. But there are people that are already coming to you pretty qualified with a decent amount of knowledge that,
I've certainly found that people who do turn up at our dealership looking at the small EVs that we've sold know everything about it. You don't need to sell it to them. They know that they want that.
I'm glad somebody does, James.
Hopefully someone will buy the 10-year-old Nissan Leaf.
Did they say, has it got an SD card in it? And you have to say,
no, it hasn't. Yeah, it's broken. Less of that said, the better job.
We're back to you, Batch.
Yeah, we'll hand over to you, Batch.
Well, shall I move on to Matt? Even though half of my questions have been asked.
Please.
I was including all that as part of your section.
Be a short interview, Batch, won't it?
It is, yes. Well, I'm going to start things off very, very simply, Matt. So, you've been in the top job. Is it just over a year now?
It's nearly 18 months. Nearly 18 months.
18 months. Yeah. So, I mean, you've come into the brand when the brand is sort of survived with just one car. Now you're developing a range of cars. I mean, just give us an idea of what your 18 months have been like.
Chaotic.
Chaotic.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a real...
It's not an
baptism.
AA meeting, you know.
No, well, gee,
No,
if people
that's
have
half
got
an
beers
hour
in here,
off
maybe
it.
I could have one. That'd be quite handy. No, it's been a really interesting journey, actually, and I'm not saying that because I'm trying to be politically correct. It genuinely has been fascinating, actually. And you're right, a lot's happened in that time. You know, we've transitioned the business model away from a service operator-led agency-style relationship with our investor partners to a non-genuine agency or active selling model, as I prefer to call it, which was a big step. We've launched 2 new cars. We've expanded our retailer footprint by nearly 100%. You know, we've nearly doubled sales. Lots happened in that time. So, you know, from my perspective, the EV market is alive and kicking. You just need to know how to go after it. And yes, there's more competition for sure. Absolutely, and we'll talk about Chinese entrants a lot, I'm sure. But the fact is, the market's 2 million cars. Has been for a few years, will be for a few years more. You know, so all these new entrants coming in and wanting a piece of that market is doing one thing and one thing only, and that's just creating more competition and more choice for customers. And that's a good thing because competition keeps us honest.
You just describe a little bit more about the way you sell cars, because you sort of said there a little bit how you've transitioned, but just for clarity, Polestar has made a change, hasn't it, with how it started off in 2020 to where we are now? Yeah,
correct. So when Polestar started, they were the brand that didn't sell cars. That was their strapline, actually. Yeah. We don't sell cars, so you can come and have a look, and we'll give you a test drive, but we're not going to sell you one. You know, if you want to buy one, you can go away and transact on the internet, and that's how it was. And I kind of arrived and looked at it and thought, well, we've got these dealer partners whose day job it is to sell cars. Why are we not leveraging, you know, their expertise on how to sell cars? So it's quite a quick decision, an easy decision for me to make. Was how do we bring the retailers more into the selling space for Polestar? You know, and how do we take the handcuffs off them? Which actually, the first conversations I had were, please just let us get on and sell cars. How do we allow them to do that? So, of course, it all comes back to a contract, doesn't it? And we had to change the contract, the agreement, to allow them to sell cars, change the margin model and all the things that go on behind it. And actually, I think it's been quite successful. You know, it's definitely unlocked more of a retail focus for us. You know, being an EV brand, we're 80% fleet. 80% of that fleet is salary sacrifice, which presents itself as a retail buyer 9 times out of 10. So that change in our stance in terms of sales was really important. And yeah, we're a year in. It's almost a year to the day. We started in September. We're a year on. You know, I'm sure Jon would comment. It's still not perfect, but you know, we're better than we were before.
So are those retail spaces? I mean, you started like Battersea Centre, the Trafford Centre, which are very different. Various manufacturers have flirted with that idea over the years of that. You know, having a sort of a different kind of dealership within a retail space. Are those kinds of sites still important to you?
Less so, if I'm honest. Vicky, you talked about building a brand. You know, so in the early days, getting Polestar in front of as many eyeballs as you could, shopping malls did that job. So, you know, for sure, that was the right thing then. It's not the right thing now, in my opinion, and we've been public about it. You know, we are going to transition away from the shopping mall concept and move into more traditional type of real estate, but with the Polestar branding and the Polestar experience and the Polestar journey. So it's definitely done a job for us, but particularly as we're now into the realm of, you know, the second and third ownership cycles for Polestar customers, we need to be able to deal with used cars. You know, and used cars are very hard to transact from a shopping mall space. You know, I'm a huge fan and passion of mine. It is about used cars, and you do need some real estate and some forecourt space, because whilst most of the journeys start online, yes, they do, a lot of the journeys end in the dealership in terms of transacting a used car. You know, I flirted with the idea when I was at Volvo. We launched a D2C used car platform, and actually it was a great experiment. We didn't sell loads of cars from it, you know, doing it direct online. It serves some people, but most people still want to come and touch, feel, sniff, drive, check for rattles, has a dog been in it, has it been smoked in, and have a deal. You know, that's what used cars are all about. So that's one of the reasons we want to move away from the shopping centres, but also I just believe that it's more accessible to come to a car dealership than it is a shopping centre. You know, that the experience that we deliver through our shopping malls are the best that we can with the tools that are in front of us. But test drive experience in particular is quite complicated, particularly in somewhere like Battersea, where you're going to go out and sit in traffic for an hour and a half. That's not really much of a test drive experience. And even in some of the bigger ones like Trafford or even Cribs, you've got to get out of the car park, you've got to get onto the roads, and then you can have your drive, and then you've got to worry about, well, how do I get it back? Where do I leave it? So there's lots of reasons, I think, why we want to move away, and we'll do that over the course of the next 3 or 4 years.
Sorry, can I just ask a quick question about the agency? Having gone into that business and changed that away from an agency model, we've seen lots of manufacturers say they're going to go agency, drift away from it, cancel it, sweep it under the carpet. Do you think agency is as an idea is going to die a death?
I think it depends on your channel mix for sales. Frankly speaking, because we're so heavily fleet bias, being able to directly issue terms to those leasing companies and control the market is important. So from a fleet perspective, I think agency is absolutely right. From a retail perspective, it's got its pros and it's got its cons. But again, because so small percentage of our business, 20% is retail. At the moment, it works for us. There are new products coming for Polestar, which have been talked about already. Polestar 7 is coming to the market soon. That will be a great retail car for us. That will certainly unlock the opportunity to sell more retail cars to more retail customers. And maybe then we have a look at how we deal with the business model. But today, right now, it's fit for purpose, I think.
That ability for you to be able to shift your retail stance and your focus, is that one of the advantages of being part of Geely? Because Polestar is a startup brand, but look at the number of startup brands, particularly from China and some from America, which have started. I mean, even NIO. I mean, I know you were previously at NIO, which had these grand plans, and then all of a sudden you realise that the UK market's a difficult place to crack. It's very difficult to sell cars to people, very brand aware, very snobby, you could say, to a certain extent. But you've been able to switch your retail stance because you've got some support behind you, haven't you, from a larger conglomerate?
Yeah, I mean, if you take the challenges of a startup, which I am very familiar, as you know, because my time at NIO would say, some of the challenges you have when you're trying to persuade people to trust in a new brand is what happens if it goes wrong. And being part of Geely means we're very close to Volvo. Being close to Volvo means we have the benefit of 97 authorised repairer points from day one. So if your Polestar goes wrong, don't worry, it's not a problem. Take it to a Volvo dealership; they will look after you in the way that they're really good at doing so. So that's one of the big stepping stones and big challenges I think these new brands will have. Certainly from my experience, and especially in the premium car space, is how do I know that you're going to be there if something happens and something goes wrong? What are you going to do if the worst does happen? And that's a really key point for being part of Geely and being part of that family. It gives us that scale.
Yeah.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Motorway. This is what easy car sourcing from more than 8,000 fresh vehicles every week feels like. Join Motorway, the UK's largest source of private stock exclusively for dealers, where our transport, stock funding and insurance means you get seamless service and peace of mind when fueling your forecourt. Browse, bid and buy at the touch of a button. It's not magic, it's Motorway.
I'm going to interrupt because I think we have a question from over here. Rebecca's going to have to run very quickly, sorry.
Run.
Play some background music while this happens.
Now he goes to the gym tonight.
Hi, I'm Martin from EV Experts. We sell electric cars. I was interested to hear about the retail partner relationship between Volvo and Polestar. We're real big fans of Polestar. We sell a lot of those units. And we're finding an inconsistency, and this is really to Matt and Vicky, from some of the Volvo service centres. We have some locally that are refusing to deal with Polestar. We have some that are definitely pushing Polestar further down because they're not my customer. And I think that's it's a challenge, because the one thing that's brilliant is, I've not heard of Polestar. You can get it serviced at a Volvo dealer. And that relationship between the two is an absolute, it has really closed the sale on a lot of the vehicles that we sell. So just want to sort of key to hear from both sides how you view the relationship between Volvo and Polestar and how linked or unlinked are they?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah,
sure. Thank you for the question. And we are aware that that's happening. I think all I would say is that because we're in our infancy as a brand, and our retailer partnerships are growing, we're in a position now where the retailer relationships we have with our investors represent around 40% of the after-sales points in the UK. So our Polestar partners, who also represent Volvo, I would like to think are not guilty of that. And if they are, then we'll have a chat later. Maybe you can tell me some specific names, and I'll deal with it. But how do we overcome it? And this is why our network expansion is so important, because everyone's got some skin in the game, haven't they? And if you're not part of the Polestar family, you're probably not going to be that predisposed to prioritising them when it comes to fixing the problems. And we've had our fair share, like lots of brands have. So, a long way of saying we're working on it, and we're aware of it. And I think there's some other things that I can do, working more closely with the Volvo UK team, to make sure that deprioritisation doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, to Matt's point, we're very fortunate that we are a Polestar partner as well. So in effect, our Volvo centres are in similar areas of operation. And so our Polestar customers are as much a priority as our other brands. I think it's really fair to say that I certainly don't believe that happens in our centres. They are valued customers to us too.
Just a question on that front. Are customers still connecting the two? Do they still connect Volvo and Polestar? Because I mean, for a long time, Polestar was a speedy version of a Volvo, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But now they've obviously been separated. Are they still making that connection? Is that connection even important?
I believe it is, yeah. I mean, when you look at the technology platforms that our cars share, it's Volvo. Polestar 3 is underpinned and shared with the same platform as an EX90. Polestar 2 is underpinned and shares a platform with an XC40. So, those ties are still really, really important. And actually, the businesses are still linked, despite what you might read in the press. Volvo's still a 20% shareholder of Polestar. So that relationship's still very much there and cemented.
From my perspective, I think what we see, a lot of Polestar customers are really into the tech. Mm-hmm. So actually they've done their research, and I think on the whole are very aware of the relationship.
Are you finding customers are coming into your Polestar showrooms and knowing about the brand? Or does it take a bit of convincing, a bit of selling, a bit of education to customers? What I'm trying to sort of find out really, whether Polestar's got the brand recognition which you want.
I think absolutely, and I think increasingly so over the last sort of 18 to 24 months, we've seen a real growth in Polestar brand awareness, and I'm sure your brand or recall brand awareness surveys at Polestar nationally will support that. We are seeing a massive increase in awareness, and people are talking to us about, I'm always amazed at the amount of people that are talking to us about, when can we see Polestar 5? There's an awareness that it's coming, and I think that absolutely people know about the brand by the time they arrive with us.
Yeah, and part of the strategy has been, since I've arrived, is let's just get as many cars on the roads as we can. That is your biggest way of creating brand awareness, is putting cars on the road. Mm. So the drive for improved sales and now being the fastest growing premium car brand in the UK was a really important milestone to hit, because that does service more brand awareness without a shadow of a doubt, more than you can do by throwing money at TV or any other metric.
Just a slightly wider industry question, really, Matt. What are you seeing in the new car market? I mean, what are your predictions for the rest of this year and next? The dealers I'm talking to are saying it's quite tough out there. We've got a budget coming up, which is going to be absolutely critical to the economy. What are your predictions leading a manufacturer going forward?
The market's definitely hardened. It's fair to say Q1 was quite a honeymoon period, I think, for everybody. Q2 got harder, Q3 got even harder. What are we seeing? Well, the market's 2% up year to date, isn't it? BEV sales up 30%, PHEV sales up 34%. So you can see where the drop-off is. It's in petrol and diesel. And a lot of that growth is being fueled through high discount business. There's a statistic from last year, £4.5 billion was poured into the industry through OEM and dealer discounts to drive the adoption of electric cars. I'd put a sizable bet on that being bigger this year, because everyone's fighting for that market share in a market that's not getting any bigger. And there are more entrants, and there is more choice. But the budget, I think, is a really crucial thing, isn't it? Because there's only one or two levers that the government can pull in terms of getting more revenue in, and that's tax raises, generally speaking. It can be a raid on national insurance and or income tax, and that with uncertainty around inflation, which is still rising, interest rates not coming down as quickly as people wanted to or thought they might. There is still a cost of living crisis. We don't hear so much of that term in the press today, but there is still very much a cost of living crisis. So, I see the market is going to be stagnant this year and probably stagnant next year. I don't see the growth, But of course, we've got the ZEV mandate targets, haven't we, which say 33% of sales next year have got to be EVs. Well, that's okay for me because I sell EVs. So that's cool. But the rest of the brands that are struggling to do that, again, there's only one lever, and it's more discount. So I think it's going to be really challenging both at a manufacturer level, but I think also for the dealers in the room, because they are going to have to trade harder and harder and harder to hit these targets. And I know OEMs put in place, because I've done it before, I'm one of those horrible people that have set targets based on government-based incentives, and there must be in most car brands, I'm assuming, a ZEV mandate-related mixed target which unlocks some of your margin. And if you're not hitting that, you're going to lose 0.5%, 1%, whatever the number is, and that's a big chunk of cash.
Vicky, similar question. I mean, what are you predicting going forward? Do you agree with Matt, or do you see the market slightly differently?
No, I think I do agree with Matt. I think the interesting thing, clearly, yes, we see the decline in petrol and diesel vehicle, but you have to ask yourself how much of that is push in terms of when you look at what the manufacturers are being forced to produce in order to meet those ambitious targets in terms of EV mix, then absolutely it's about us then trying to get those products to the right customers. So I think in terms of what Matt's suggesting, I think we see exactly the same, but we have seen this year get much harder. So the incentives keep coming. And I think, I referenced earlier a Moda JQ and the number of overlays and enhancements, but actually they're not alone. And what we are seeing consistently quarter after quarter now is increased number of enhancements, increased number of almost testing the water. How do we move more of that product? So I think we're going to continue to see that real reactiveness to the market until they can get that right in terms of the number of new EV products coming through.
And you see the push, don't you, in the stats? 30% of the business at the end of June was done in the last 2 days.
Yes.
It'll be the same in September.
Sure, it's just a coincidence. Batch, I think you've got time for one more question if you've got one left. Before
Well, it was just, you touched upon it earlier on, Matt. This question was rudely taken away from me by John, but it was about sort of ZEV mandates and the fines which the government is taking. I mean, is there a better way the government could be using these fines money, actually putting it to some good use?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've spoken again in public forums about this. I do believe those fines, that fund should be reinvested to support the transition to electric cars. I work for electric car brand because I do believe that electric cars are the future. I'm also a petrol head, just to get it out there. But if we believe in a sustainable future, electric cars do play a part in that. So we have to get our heads around driving, using, owning, selling electric cars, and people need a gentle nudge in that direction, and that is going to be a financial incentive of some description. And the fines, to me, seem like a really, really great way to reinvest that money to achieve what the government is setting out as really, really high objectives for OEMs and for dealers. So you can't set a target without some stick and carrot approach. And if the stick's there, that's the ZEV target. The carrot needs to come a bit more now. And they'll say they've done it in terms of the electric car grant. And yeah, okay, you could say they have done it, but there are more things they could and should be doing. And those fines are a great example of how that money should be reinvested.
Is it my go?
It is.
Oh, excellent. Alex, let's talk used cars. My favourite subject, as you know. I mean, firstly, for the people in the room and those listening, just explain a little bit about your business so we get an idea of what you do.
Yeah, so we try and specialise in small cars. It doesn't always happen. So yeah, we carry probably about anything between sort of 45 and 60 cars at any one time. Average price probably £10,000 to £12,000. And yeah, we've got quite a broad mix really, petrol, diesel and electric. And yeah, just a few big ones chucked in for good measure, but we try and limit those as much as possible really. And we're based down in Hampshire.
It's sounding very familiar, James, isn't it?
It is, yeah. That's why I'm doing this one, so I can get some more tips. Obviously, down in the New Forest, Jon and I came to see you, didn't we? Did a video, and what I loved about your story is just the way you've built this business. I mean, you started from home, didn't you? And then and you've built it up to. I mean, I looked on the website the other day. You've got a lot of cars advertised at the moment, haven't you?
Yeah. Auto Trade, I think they've allowed you to add a load of cars under £7,000, a little bit cheaper than normal. So we're utilising that as much as possible at the moment, just to get them all online. Because well, you've been doing it a little while, but we found over the years that end of September, things do then tail off, probably right the way through until January. So we're just trying to make the most of now, really. But yeah, started out at my parents' place, and then got to about 15 cars, and no one could move for cars. That's the time I got kicked out. And then I met my wife to be anyway. So then I relocated, and then just actually got a little unit, not too dissimilar to what you're running with at the moment. And then after a couple of years there, we outgrew that, and then got a slightly bigger space in the same town. So it's been fairly slow because we first kicked off in 2016. So yeah, 9 years now. But yeah, it's great. Love it.
You mentioned Auto Trader there, and we've talked a lot about marketing channels. What really works for you?
It is Auto Trader, probably mainly for the selling. But like I try and explain to people, if you're I don't know, you need to kind of take another example. So let's say we're based in Derby. If you draw a 40-mile radius around Derby as a customer, you've got a lot of cars to choose from. If you're in Barton-on-Sea, which by the sea, you've got the Isle of Wight over there. Half it's a channel. So we're struggling in terms of like our actual catchment for who we can appeal to. So yeah, it's Auto Trader. And that's pretty much the main one. We've been through them all. We've been through, eBay Motors, Car Gurus. I'm not going to say too much more about that. I think everyone's got their own views on that, or did have at least. So yeah, there's a few out there, but ultimately Auto Trader seems to be one that's winning for us. We do a fair bit of local advertising as well in terms of sourcing, because as everyone knows, sourcing is a big problem and has been for a while. So we try and go direct and source from private customers works well for us as well. So it was just trying to tailor everything to our local market, which is typically older folk, retired, and they've got a lot of cars under 40,000 miles, and we're just trying to tap into that as much as possible, really.
Yeah, I mean, they're holy grail, aren't they? They're very well looked after.
Should we just leave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to the sourcing that sort of stock, Alex, what other channels do you use? Do you use the likes of Motorway, CarWow, etc.?
Do I have to say yes?
No?
Ideally.
Okay.
Please do.
So yeah, we do use CarWow and Motorway, but we've got a really a good source at the moment. So like X-Fleet, Hire Purchase, PCP, stuff like that. So we're buying a lot from them at the moment. So yeah, I'd probably say like, I don't know, 60-70% is coming from them, which is really working well. So we're just having to adjust margins down a little bit, just to do more numbers, but ultimately it's working well. The bottom line is going up each month, so that's good. And yeah, we're just advertising locally, and the free magazines that you just like maybe read and just, like, throw away, they actually work well for us in our local area. So yeah, and a lot of part exchanges, but we're trying to keep hold of a lot of our part exchanges as well, because it saves on travel time and all the rest of it and inspection costs.
Do you buy from traditional auctions?
Can't remember the last time we did actually buy from traditional auction route. 6 months ago. Yeah, it's like that. So it kind of scares me a little bit. I need to probably still keep my hand in there, should our feed kind of get turned off at some point. But yeah, that's how we built the business to where we are today, but not at the moment. And I don't miss it, to be honest. Don't miss it at all.
Well, when it comes to running a small used car business, I mean, there are a lot of stresses, as I said at the beginning.
Yeah.
How do you cope with that?
Hire people to do it for you. So if John's watching this, yeah, you can't leave. You're not leaving. So yeah, it's just trying to get people around you to kind of shoulder the burden. And like you said, or alluded to at the start, if you've got people around you, just bounce ideas off. Whether it's like virtual, if you've got like a WhatsApp group going with like other like-minded dealers. If you haven't got like the pleasure of having people around you, then just make use of it, because it can get on top of you. And a lot of you guys out there that do the job, you'll know that sometimes it all comes at once, right? So you get a few customers maybe complain in a short space of time, and maybe it's a week where you're not selling too much, and then it can get a bit much. So you need to really like lean on whoever you can, really, because it can be tough.
And when it comes to reviews, you've got some fantastic reviews. I was checking them out in Australia the other day. How important are they to you as a business?
They're really important. you kind of get used to forgetting about it. You keep building the reviews, and you start, realize I need to ask these people. You actually like reading our reviews, and they do. Pretty much every single person that comes on, you talk to them about it. They say, yeah, I looked at the reviews. It's kind of like a hygiene factor. Like you have to have good reviews to do good business. So yeah, it's vital.
And when it comes to like the opportunities in the used car market, I mean, what do you think is next? For dealers like us. I mean, how do we maximise the opportunity? I mean, you've mentioned you're doing EVs, but there'll be a lot of people in the audience and a lot of people watching this who just don't do it. What would you say to them?
I think like Matt said, I think it's coming. Yes, the market for new ones is 2 million. It's probably going to be like that for a while, but 2 million plus 2 million plus 2 million from the last few years, we're going to have a bigger used vehicle park to go at. So if you're not doing it now, it's going to come, because the used vehicle park is growing, and will probably continue to grow a bigger rate over the next 3-4 years. So if you're not doing it now, then you got to, because it's inevitable, really. So maybe just start small. Maybe go with stuff that's still under manufacturer's warranty. Try and play it safe, whether that's battery or complete vehicle. If you can, obviously budgets might not work for everyone if you're trying to stick to 5-10 grand worth of stock, but yeah, just give it a go and see how you get on. I think you might be pleasantly surprised. I spoke to a dealer, I think it was last week, and he said he was loving the job. And the reason he was loving the job is because he's literally just been selling Tesla after Tesla after Tesla, and he's not getting any complaints. And that helps. Obviously, if it is just you or someone else, stress levels, you actually need to keep them nice and low to be able to operate efficiently and make the most of your day.
Do you find you get less warranty claims on electric cars?
Yeah. I think we've had. You got to temper it with how many cars have we actually sold that are electric. Sure, we've probably got, I don't know, 15 Teslas out there that we've sold, maybe 7 or 8 500Es. We had one called on a Tesla, but then they called us a few days later to say it's cured itself. So it's like best follow-up call ever.
Software-defined car for you, fixes itself.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's legit, is it? Okay, that's great. I'll keep buying more in that case. Yeah, so I can't even think of any other.
I think we might have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a question from me.
Oh,
sounds.
hello,
sure.
Rebecca.
No, I was just curious if you think that there should be a grant for used electric cars as well, or if you think there's enough appetite for the number that are out there at the moment.
Good question. I think naturally I should say yes, in case anybody with any influence is watching this. But I think touching on Matt's point earlier, what you were saying about trying to get as many cars out there as possible, that's actually coming into some of the conversations that we're having with people. People are coming to us inquiring on used cars saying, yeah, Dave's just got one, and oh my God, it's amazing, isn't it? So it is literally just all about awareness, I think. The more people driving them, sharing those experiences, grant's going to help for sure. And maybe it is the best way to do it, because if you're putting grants out there on 10 grand cars rather than say 50, 60 grand ones, then the word's going to get out there, more experiences. So yeah.
Well, the used car market's what, 7-8 million transactions a year? It's 4 times as big as a new one, isn't it? So I think it's an obvious place to start.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, it's not just money off though. It's things like batteries though, isn't it? And I know you've been doing some work with this.
Yeah.
About Polestar battery, and some dealers in this room have, with battery health checks. So it's not just a grant for money off the purchase price. It's a bit of certainty that the battery's actually got some life in it.
Yeah, and this comes back to education, doesn't it? Because I think there's still lots of people out there that think that car battery is like your phone battery, that is built-in obsolescence. After 2 years, it starts to tail off. And what we see in terms of the state of health test that we've done is that a car that's done 100,000 miles, it's still got a state of health of well in excess of 90%. So the myth that car batteries are going to die after 8 years and it's going to cost you a fortune, that's not certainly what I'm seeing or experiencing.
Vicky, do you use any battery health testing? When you sell an electric car,
Yes.
use electric cars, and do you show those certificates to customers?
We do, absolutely. So an important part of our used merchandising is our battery state of health checks. So we present that to any used vehicle that we present. That's available for customers to view online as well as when they visit us in showroom. But it's actually also an important tool for us when we're appraising part exchanges coming in as well. So absolutely, battery state of health check is an important part of the process for us.
The one thing I found with the electric cars we have bought in is service history is very, very hard to come by. I don't know whether you found the same thing, Alex, but it's pretty much non-existent. Zoe I bought the other day hadn't been serviced since 2019, and the guy who chops it in said, "Well, it doesn't need servicing, does it?"
It's a fair point.
It sort of does, but yeah. I mean, how do you? It's all very well because they do have less moving parts, etc. But the next customer wants some proof that it's been looked at, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Well, some of them do, but the ones that we've dealt with, it's not been a topic of conversation.
Really?
I think, well, a lot of the deals we've been doing recently have been on Tesla Model 3s, and the conversation is really around what's it like to drive. They come back off the test drive, you show them what they need to be shown, what they want to be shown, which could run into hours on end. I'm sure you guys know that full well. You take the lead by the customer, really. And it's just, usually it's just, wow, this car's amazing. They had no experience and they're just itching to get in it and buy it. And they can't believe the amount that they've dropped in value. And these people are openly sharing this, not trying to drive a deal with you. So service history doesn't really form part of the conversation at all, we're finding.
I was just going to ask, so would you switch your business over tomorrow to EV only? Some of our audience.
Maybe not tomorrow. It's definitely something I've been thinking about this last couple of weeks, like for sure. But I don't think I'd switch off Small Cars Direct if I was to do that. That's a whole another, conversation, thought to think, how do you do that? How can you manage that, like logistically and time-wise? But it's something for the future, especially if it is going to be the way that things are going to go in the next 5-10 years.
And just a wider question for the panel, but I'll start with you, Alex, on service history. I mean, have you found that with the cost of living crisis, etc., that people are just not doing it now? I mean, that's like John. When John and I have been searching like motorway and car out for cars, it's very unusual to see a full service history car, isn't it? I mean, is it just something people have forgotten, or just don't do anymore to save money?
Yeah, I think I'm probably not the best person to ask on this because the business has been going like 9 years, but people have been doing it for say 15, 20 years would probably be from a better point to say. But I think you're right. I think when we do get a car in which has literally been serviced annually for the last 10 years at the same dealer or whatever, it's really rare now. And I'm not actually sure that people are appreciating it because you've got like the price markers. People are so driven by price that actually people aren't necessarily seeing the value in it. So no, I don't think people are service them as much, and also I don't think people are actually that bothered by it either, which is right or wrong. Don't know.
Cool. We've got a question or an answer to that question as to whether it's got worse.
EV experts, so desperate to get back on stage, I can tell.
I think attitudes have changed as well post-COVID. You know, people are using their cars less, so they think they need to service them less.
Yeah. Do you see it as a manufacturer?
Well, less so 'cause obviously we're EVs, but I mean certainly when I talk to our investor partners that represent other brands and do sell used cars, that's definitely a factor. You know, it's not a religious every year anymore. If you're only doing 5,000 miles a year, I think, well, I could skip a year, right? So yeah.
What do you see, Vicky, in your dealerships?
I think we tend to see that in that segment one band, that kind of 1 to 3 year old, actually kind of retention into the after sales space is still quite good. I think there's a cognizance around preserving the manufacturer warranty, and I think that as a main dealer, we do a good job of retaining customers into the after sales space. I think as you start to move into segment 2, 3 vehicles, yes, we are finding it more challenging to keep those customers coming back. But I think that's really for us because, to Matt's point, absolutely, I think since COVID there is, we've got more people working remotely, more people doing lower mileages. So it's about us adjusting our proposition to the customer, and whether that's low mileage servicing options or whatever it might be, it's about looking at different ways of offering the service to retain customers.
Sorry, over to Estelle.
So I was just going to make a comment about EV servicing because we set up our EV business in 2017, and so we do have some history of people who have cars that are 5, 6, 7 years old. And what we are seeing is that manufacturers are turning away claims on HV batteries because the service history isn't complete. which, you know, I don't criticise manufacturers for doing that. I think it's absolutely actually the right thing, because I do think it's quite helpful for people to have their cars looked at. Most EVs it's every other year, and it's not that expensive actually. And also it's a point for people to understand whether other things in their car are also still up to scratch, you know, whether that's tyres or, you know, brake pipes, etc. So, you know, a good health check. So, yeah, I think as we go forward, whether an EV has been serviced or not is going to become more relevant. But of course, at the moment, most people have quite new EVs where battery module failures are not yet a feature, but they certainly are of older ones. But I also wanted to ask, can I ask another question? Is that okay, James? Sorry, not EV related at all. You'll be pleased to hear. I just wanted to ask, you know, you were talking about advertising locally, and I just wondered how you were finding, or what you were thinking about market extension, because which Auto Trader offer, because we're not sure about it. It's not something that we really want to do, because, I don't know, used cars, I think it's really important to develop a relationship and for people to understand that it's a good idea to buy a used car, particularly the older it gets, perhaps near the dealership where you bought it from, because there might be a problem, or if it's an EV or a new technology, you might actually need some support in accessing and getting the most of that car. So we you know, we're not that keen on distance selling. And also, I don't know what it is about used cars, but, you know, the one that goes the furthest will be the only one that has a problem. Or, you know, you've got a really trusted delivery partner who's delivered like 100 cars for you, no problem. But the one that's going to Peebles is the one that they snagged the alloy on. And apparently nobody in Peebles actually repairs alloys. So, yeah, we're not...
Sounds like a therapy session.
Yes, but yeah, so we're not that keen on market extension. I don't see it really working for consumers. I've even had consumers on the forecourt saying that they've given up with Auto Trader searches, for example, because it keeps giving them cars that are not within their not within their remit they've asked for. And yeah, I'm not convinced it's right for the consumer. I'm not convinced it's right for the trader. But I'd be really interested to hear other people's thoughts on it.
We've not tried market extension. We thought it was quite expensive. Of course, we were sold the dream of, yeah, but you're going to sell, you know, maybe 40% more cars if you try it. I don't know. It's probably just a bit of stubbornness on my part, maybe, just to be annoyed at our location. Well, it's my fault. We shouldn't be based in Barton-on-Sea or New Milton. But it would be nice to try it. Maybe, obviously, free trials, they're not a thing with Auto Trader anymore, it seems. But maybe we try it if it was a reduced rate, because I think it was quite expensive. But we're geared up for it. Like our name is Small Cars Direct. Like we will deliver direct. We've been doing it for pretty much since we started. And we've got a transporter and we can do it. So it's something that I'd probably quite enjoy to do. Like I think if you can just get as many cars out the door as possible, great. Like I think we prep them correct. I've got no problems in sending cars like to Newcastle, Scotland. You know, if you're a member of the IMDA, like there's like a map where you've got like, you know, trusted repairers. So, but then even then, like if there is no one like that nearby, like we just usually call on a trusted mobile mechanic. So it's literally just Google mobile mechanic, probably like 4 or 5 in that customer's area. We'll look at the highest reviews, 4.8, 4.9, give them a call, let them know exactly what's going on, be transparent with them, and we can get things resolved, like pretty much no matter where the car is. So we've got no issue in doing that. So yeah, maybe it's worth trying market extension. I don't know how else you can.
Have you tried boosting any cars on Auto Trader?
Yeah.
Had any success?
Mixed. If stuff's over age or getting to be over age, we are boosting cars. And sometimes we'll actually get hits on cars after the boost ended. So it might be that someone saved it to their garage and then we've changed the price by $5 or $10, and then they've had a notification and then they've inquired. So it's always hard to know as a result of that, but may well be because we just don't get any leads on cars, and then
we'll have to ask the Auto Trader people after the podcast, and I'll connect you two together, and you can berate them.
Let them have a drink first.
Yeah. Right, we go.
I think we're sort of running out of time now.
Well, we've got any final questions, Jon?
Well, we do. Well, I did have a final question written here, but you both have edited the Google Doc, and now I can't see it. So I'm going to have to try and remember what it is.
Oh.
So, I mean, I'm going to start with Vicky. See if I can remember what it was. What do you love about being in the motor trade?
Gosh.
Yeah,
Just
let's
to put you
end
on
on
the
a
spot.
positive. Let's end on
No,
a positive.
I said gosh because I could talk about this all day. It's an incredibly dynamic place to be. It's a fast-paced place to be. I love the fact that no 2 days are the same in my job. So I'm a huge advocate for working in this industry, and I think the retail side of it, particularly with the amount of change that we're going through, is hugely exciting place to be. So that's what I love about it.
It's a very good and concise answer. Thank you. Matt, what about you?
All of what Vicky just said, but it's the people for me. Yeah, the motor trade is full of fantastically interesting characters, and I never get bored of meeting new people in the automotive industry, and it's fantastic. That's why I love it.
Very good. Alex?
Guess it's just the buzz, the obvious answer, the buzz of getting a deal done. It's pretty exciting. And getting a positive review and actually seeing people genuinely loving their new car and the experience that they've had, and knowing that we've given them that experience is pretty cool. So yeah, they're both really.
Fantastic. Oh, I can see James is going to be left out if I don't ask him. James, what do you love about
No,
it?
I agree with that. I find it incredibly addictive, and people often ask me why on earth are you running a small used car dealership when you should be writing story? And it's because I absolutely love it. I like meeting. It is the people. I like meeting the people. The general public are a unique breed, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's very diverse. You meet some brilliant people, and what I love about it is people look at the automotive, the used car trade, and they end up turning up at your dealership, and they're normally a bit fighty, I find.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy.
That's gospel.
That's gospel. Yes, that's gospel. Yeah, I really enjoy winning them over, and I think when it goes from someone who's really got real skepticism about buying a used car from a used car dealer to the point where you've sold them the car and you get a positive review, there's no better feeling. I really enjoy it.
It's a nice Batch. What do you love about the Rover 75 now?
For me, it's knowing there's a free barbecue in there.
Yeah.
We can hurry up.
We're doing that again. Well, all that's left for me to say is thank you to our panel. You've been fantastic. Round of applause for our panel, please. Very good round of applause. Thank you as well to Motorway for making this event possible and feeding us all afterwards. So round of applause for Motorway, please. And thank you as well to these two for saying some words.
You're very welcome.
I didn't. Good. Well, thanks to everyone for coming along, and thank you if you're listening through the usual podcast means. We will be back in a few days, whenever we publish this, probably the next day, with the regular Friday podcast as well, where we talk about news, etc.
We will indeed.
But that's all from me. Bye, everyone.